Guys, I have a confession to make. I do not have a good feeling about this chapter. For one, the name of chapter 9 is Whiteout, and it looks to take place on the mountain, or mountain tops. For another, the ending of the previous chapter had the narration, after Scarlet said that tomorrow will be a long day, was that she was unaware of how right she was. Which means that something bad is definitely going to happen. Fate has been tempted. The event flag has been triggered. But we don't know what's going to happen yet. So, without further ado, let's read this chapter and find out what happened, shall we? The good thing is that Team Farthing Wood has now 4 members. Plucky, Dash, Scarlet, and Perry. Perry the Falcon. I'm just trying to lighten the mood a bit. Anyway. Dawn broke over the mountains, but dull and gray cloud-filled sky limited the amount of direct sunlight available. Despite this, Plucky was still determined for the group to get up and down the other side of the mountain within the day. Before it was even fully bright, the group all took a drink from the pond and then began the long climb up. Perry flew above, keeping the others pointed the right and safest way up the mountain, often landing to rest for a few minutes. It was very windy, and the consistent flight was straining his wings, which tired out the young falcon quickly. For the others, it was a moderately steep slope, but they were safe with Perry's reconnaissance of the route, and they each kept a positive attitude, despite the cool, strong winds ruffling through their fur. They kept at a steady pace, keeping a firm paw on the ground so as not to stumble or slip, as it would be quite a fall. A fall that would definitely be fatal. Bad feeling is growing. Bad feeling is growing. As they neared the top ridge of the mountain, the majority of clouds had cleared, and the slopes started to decrease. Dash soon found herself further ahead than Plucky and Scarlet and reached the ridge first. Perry then flew down and perched himself on a rock next to her, and the two of them stared into the distance over the ridge, which Plucky and Scarlet still had yet to reach. "Hey guys, get up here!" Perry shouted back to the pair of foxes. "Yeah, the view is amazing!" Dash shouted back too. "Does she ever slow down?" Scarlet playfully asked Plucky, making him laugh. "No, I think it must be something in the grass she eats," Plucky chuckled. The pair then decided to catch up with their companions with a swift trot, and rushed up the slope to the top of the ridge to join them. Rushing is bad. Rushing is bad. Do not tell me one of them is gonna... Oh. Whew. Now I have a good feeling about this chapter. "What took you so long?" Dash asked cheerily. "We were taking it steady," Plucky said. "We don't have your energy, you know," Scarlet joked. "Here, take a look." Perry grabbed their attention, gesturing them to look at the view that was before them. They weren't at the highest point of the mountain, not even to actually reach the snow caps, but it was enough to see very far away. Directly below the mountains were several valleys filled with thick forests, as well as several large bodies of water. Further into the distance, the features became less distinguishable. They could just make out a few fields and what looked like farms, and there were a few towns noticeable before the view got so far, they couldn't even make out anything further away. "Oh, wow," Plucky uttered, upon seeing the view from the ridge. "You can see for miles up here," Dash stated. "Hundreds of miles," Scarlet corrected her.
I never realized it was so far. It'll take us all winter to get there, Plucky said, slightly disheartened. Maybe longer, Scarlet added. But look how far we've come, Dash commented, as they quickly looked behind them. Let's see how far we've come. Let's see how far we go. It was true. They had come quite some distance already in just a few days. The moorlands that they had left behind were already far behind them. Plucky thought for a moment about what his granduncle and his mate were doing. Probably enjoying the company of each other, having had guests for the last 3 months. He then looked to the direction they were heading, wondering what awaited them when they got home, however far in the future it would be. It was so far to travel. He was glad he had waited till his wounds had healed, because this journey would have already killed him, and it wasn't going to get any easier. I'm with you there, Plucky. I'm with you there. They were all exhausted after the climb, so decided to rest for a while. But they couldn't stay here long. The winds were rough, and there was no place to take shelter, and it was already mid-afternoon. They would have to travel much faster downhill to make it before nightfall. Do you even know which way to go now? Do you even know which way to go now? Perry asked, concerned of the direction they were actually traveling. As long as we keep heading south the opposite way that Truck was taking us, but apart from that... Not really, Plucky commented. We'll find our way, Dash assured them all. We best get moving. I don't like the look of those clouds, Scarlet interrupted, having noticed a mass of thick white clouds approaching them. Good feeling is still there. Rain, do you think? Plucky asked her. Or snow? Good feeling's gone. It was snow. Not just snow, but a severe blizzard. The massive snow clouds had engulfed the entire mountain. The view that the group had gazed upon earlier was replaced with a complete whiteout. Ooh, title drop. It was almost impossible to determine what was snow and what was sky, making every step perilous. Visibility was poor too. Barely a few meters in front was as far as the group could see. The snow blew into their faces like iced daggers, leaving them half blind and cold. And the wind blew so loud and fast, they were also half deaf. The winds were too strong for Perry to fly, and the snow had quickly gotten deep too. It was already up to Plucky and Scarlet's knees, and Dash almost had to swim through it. It soon dampened the group's positive spirit. It hasn't just dampened my positive spirit, it's completely crushed it. Or frozen it. Because we're in the middle of the blizzard, we can feel the pressure. And ice encased around our hearts, it feels the only measure of even knowing where a life can turn this pain to pleasure. Before it shut right down, it shuts the door for good. There's a wall that's towering over us. If we try to climb it, will we succeed? Oh, sorry. Honestly, I wasn't going to sing that whole song for full. I might, after I remember the last lyric. I can't get that freaking song out of my head. Next time I see a blizzard, I'll have that song in my head. Thank you, Daiichi Miura, and thank you, Dragon Ball Super Broly. I had to say it, didn't I? Scarlet shouted that to Plucky in front of her. I told you I was a jinx! We were gonna get caught in this no matter what. Don't blame yourself. I can't fly in this! Perry shouted as he fell from the sky again. I can barely see! Dash cried out. Stay together! We can't afford to get separated! Plucky commanded, trying to keep everyone calm. Perry, ride on my back!
Scarlet, you okay? I'm fine, Scarlet called back, while Perry clambered onto Plucky's back. Don't lag behind! We need to keep our pace up! Plucky, I'm exhausted. Can't we stop for a minute? Dash panted. We can't stop out here or we'll freeze to death, Plucky asserted. With his head cocked sideways, ears folded down, and eyes half closed, Plucky intrepidly carried on through the deep snow, Perry lying on his back. Dash trundled just in front of him, and Scarlet staggered behind him. Without the others realizing, Scarlet had started to fall behind them. Oh, Permission to swear? Okay, granted. Fuck! Pardon my language. She had lied when Plucky asked her if she was okay. The vixen had never experienced such cold like this. It was much further north and much, much more snow than she was used to. It was chilling her to the bone and she was shivering uncontrollably. Weakened from the cold, Scarlet suddenly slipped in the snow when a huge gust of wind blew into them and the blizzard got suddenly thicker. She picked herself back up and looked on through the blinding whiteness only to see more snow. Plucky, Dash, and Perry were nowhere to be seen. Her heart suddenly sank and she felt even colder than before. Plucky! She cried out, but only the shrill whistle of the snowstorm replied. Plucky! Dash! Perry! She cried out again, hoping for some sort of reply. Where are you? Shouting desperately, she tried to force herself to run, but she was just too exhausted. The cold had drained her of all her energy. Plucky! She managed to scream out, before the cold took her. The red vixen collapsed into the snow, spent, unconscious, and hopeless. The others were still struggling through the cold, bitter, and blinding wind. It wasn't long, though, till the others had noticed Scarlet's disappearance. Dash turned around and waited for the others as she was ahead. She could clearly see Plucky's rusty red fur through the falling snow, and Perry's distinctive black feathers, being a complete contrast to the white snow. She looked behind them expecting to see another red fox, but there was nothing there. Wait! Where's Scarlet? Dash pondered, alarmed. Plucky stopped and turned, expecting the vixen to be just behind them, but there was nothing but white. She was just right behind us! Plucky shouted anxiously. Well, she's not anymore! Oh no. Plucky, you see that? Perry grabbed his attention. See what? That over there. Looks like some kind of shack. There was indeed some sort of structure visible through the blizzard. Perry's eyesight was better than the others, even through sub-zero element. They rushed over to the small wood structure housed at the edge of some small group of trees. It was a sort of shack built by the humans, possibly a hunting cabin, but it had definitely long been deserted. The door and windows had been boarded up, and the wood looked very unattended. It looks abandoned. We can use it for shelter, Perry suggested. How are we supposed to get in? It's completely boarded up, Plucky exclaimed. Over here! Dash called out, having wandered round the corner and found a hole in the bottom of the wall. Plucky poked his head in to look if it was safe. The cabin was warm inside and was completely deserted, but was rather gloomy. There were several pieces of old furniture, including a sofa, a couple of wooden chairs around a small table, and a fireplace. Plucky then brought his head back out. It's clear inside. You two go in and get warm. I'm going back to find Scarlet. Plucky! You'll die out here! Dash pleaded with him. So will Scarlet if I don't go back for her. But you can barely see out there. How are you going to find her? And she may already be dead, Perry added. No, she won't. She's stronger than that, and I know I'll find her. But Plucky! Dash pleaded. not wanting to risk losing her friend again. "Dash, I'm not just gonna leave her!" Plucky shouted forcefully, making Dash and Perry back off. "Now go! Get in there and get warm! Don't worry about me!" Plucky ran off into the deep snow until Dash and Perry could no longer see him. Dash started to sob, and Perry comforted her and begged her to come inside and out of the cold. She ultimately agreed, and they both could quickly feel the warmth. Perry flew over to the old sofa and wafted away the massive dust with his wings, and dashed and climbed up onto it and curled up in the corner, while Perry perched himself on the arm of it. Despite its obvious age, it was still comfy. "Don't worry, Dash. I'm sure they'll both be fine," Perry comforted the hare. "You said it yourself, Perry. Scarlet may already be dead, and Plucky probably won't come back either," Dash sobbed. "I know you don't believe that." "You're right. I don't." Dash paused and sighed. "I just hope they're both okay." Plucky boldly stepped through the deepening snow, determined to find Scarlet. It was even worse now, and he was starting to feel it. The freezing wind cut through his fur and chilled him to the bone, and he could barely see through the snow as it felt like thorns in his eyes. What was affecting him most was the cold on his scars, which at first felt okay, but as it continued, it was starting to cause some pain. It was most distracting as he walked on, as the soreness slithered across his face, his left ear, his shoulder, and most of all, his left front leg. Nevertheless, he was still resolute in his mission. "Scarlet!" he called out through the blizzard. "Scarlet! Scarlet!" He stopped and scanned around him, but the view was blank. He knew the chances of finding her was slim, but he had to try. He had no idea where or when she had lost them, but Plucky was guided by his determination and adoration. He stayed there examining the surroundings until there was a break in the wind, and Plucky could make out a small tuft of red in amongst the snow. "Scarlet!" he cried and ran over to the patch of red. It was definitely her, and she was half buried in the snow. Plucky frantically dug around the lifeless vixen. He filled with hope when he could see that she was still breathing. He tried to nudge her awake, and he realized she was ice cold. "Scarlet! Scarlet! Come on! Wake up!" Plucky begged her, while he kept nudging her with his muzzle. "Please wake up!" Plucky, Scarlet weakly murmured. "Yes, it's me! Come on! You've got to get up! We found shelter!" "Just leave me. I'll only slow you down." "You didn't leave me to die after I was shot, and I'm not leaving you to die now! Now come on!" he said assertively, as he forced his head underneath hers to get her up. Scarlet felt at her absolute weakest, but with Plucky's help, she lifted herself up, and he carried her the same way she carried him when he was shot. The pair stumbled through the relentless blizzard. It was as if the weather was determined to kill them. He could now feel the stinging cold of the snowstorm more than ever. With each step he took, Plucky's strength began to fade, but he soldiered on. He could now feel the stinging cold of the snowstorm more than ever, and Scarlet leaning on him felt heavier as they wandered. Plucky thought he was heading back towards the abandoned lodge where Dash and Perry were sheltering. But it soon dawned on him that he'd lost his way when he placed his front paw down on the thin air. "Permission to swear again, sorry about this. Thank you, it's been granted." "Shit! Pardon my language. I promise I won't swear anymore." "Oh shit!" Plucky cursed, upon feeling his paw just fall beneath them. "Plucky, hold on!" Scarlet shouted. "To what?" Plucky sarcastically interrupted, but was soon caught off when they both slipped through the snow and fell off the edge. "Ah!" They both cried as they fell. Luckily, the drop was only a couple of meters, and they landed on a pile of soft snow. "You okay?" Scarlet asked, concerned. "I think so. At least it was a soft landing.
Plucky stated, but suddenly realized a pain and a scar on his leg.
Plucky! Your scar is bleeding!
I know, Plucky said, and examined it quickly before speaking again. Don't worry about it.
There's a cave there we can rest in,
Scarlet said, having turned her head to see a small fissure in the ledge they had just fallen off. It wasn't deep, but it was enough to be sheltered. Plucky was reluctant to stay there as Dash and Perry would be worrying about them, but he knew there was no way they could find the cabin in this blizzard, and if they carried on they probably wouldn't make it. Scarlet's next statement made his decision.
Plucky, I can't go on,
she panted. Okay, we'll rest here until the blizzard stops. Plucky helped up the Vixen and they entered the cave. It was a relief to be out of the sub-zero wind. Scarlet curled up in the corner as far away from the entrance as she could get. She was still shivering. Plucky lay down next to her and looked at her with concern on his face.
Plucky, I'm so cold,
Scarlet stuttered. Her eyes closed. Here, I'll keep you warm. You just rest, Plucky said calmly and comfortingly. He curled himself around her, allowing her to lean on his left front leg. He put his head over hers and lay his other front leg over her back. He also wrapped his tail around her as she wrapped her own tail around herself, too. She was freezing, but was quickly warming up to Plucky's body heat.
Thank you,
Scarlet whispered, before she succumbed to her fatigue and fell asleep. Plucky smiled at her, and then lifted his head to look out the entrance. At least he knew Dash and Perry were safe and warm, and now he knew Scarlet was okay too. He found it quite a relief. The blizzard was still seriously coming down, but as soon as it was over, they would all be reunited. He too was exhausted, so he lay his head back down on top of Scarlet's, and he too soon fell asleep. Hours passed before the blizzard had died down to just a small snow shower, and Plucky woke up. It was now dark, but he wasn't prepared to risk their safety by trundling through the snow during the night, even if the white snow made it brighter than usual. He lay his head back down onto Scarlet, who was now much warmer than before and sleeping soundly, and he went back to sleep.
So adorable.
Thank God, Plucky managed to save her. And it looks like that the quartet has been split up for now, but they'll be reunited soon. Don't worry, kids. They will be. What's next? Plucky was then suddenly awakened by the sound of his own stomach churning. Hungry Plucky is hungry Plucky. Nothing can be done about that, I guess. He and Scarlet hadn't eaten at all yesterday, and he had no idea if Perry or Dash had either. It was now morning and light outside. Plucky lifted his head and tried to free his left leg from Scarlet's grip. He worried a bit when he realized how quiet and still she was. Scarlet! Plucky nudged her. Scarlet!
What?
Scarlet muttered, still half asleep. Sorry, I forgot you were a quiet sleeper.
Oh, yeah,
she yawned.
Is it morning?
Yeah.
Can I have my leg back?
Plucky chuckled.
Oh, sorry,
Scarlet said embarrassed and let go of his leg.
How are you feeling?
Plucky asked worriedly.
I think I'm okay. Definitely not as cold anymore. I'm so hungry, though. I didn't even eat yesterday.
Neither did I. We'll find Dash and Perry first, and then try and go hunting. I don't think they will have eaten either. Plucky stood up and strolled to the entrance of the cave they were in. It was completely blocked by snow with the exception of one small gap allowing some sunlight in.
We're snowed in a bit. Wait there, Plucky said. He dug his paws into the snow and began to shovel it out of his way. It didn't take him long to dig a tunnel for them both. Scarlet soon came over and Plucky stood aside. Ladies first, Plucky said smugly. Don't get any ideas, though, Scarlet sniggered. Scarlet proceeded through the small tunnel and emerged onto the landscape outside. Plucky soon followed her, not averting his gaze. There was a noticeable temperature difference as they both felt as they witnessed their own breath condense before their eyes. There was a chilly wind, and the snow was deep up to their knees, which cooled their paws and legs. The morning was clear with a screen of sky blue and few streaks of high clouds. It meant that the sun was out, and the direct heat from it was rather warm on the two foxes' backs, which helped to moderate their temperature. The sunlight also reflected off the snow, which made it very bright. Over there, Plucky said, pointing out the small wood shack by the patch of pine trees. It wasn't far away, but it would still have been impossible to find with the poor visibility through yesterday's blizzard. And it is a good thing. If they tried to look for it, Scarlet and Plucky would have both died. They scampered off in the direction of the hut, and soon reached it. Plucky walked around to where the hole in the wall was, but it too had been blocked off by snow. Inside the shack, Dash and Perry were sleeping soundly when they were awoken by the sound of shoveling outside. I told you the quartet would be reunited soon, didn't I? Everything's okay now. The good feeling is back. Everybody's got the good feeling back, yeah, yeah. They both looked at the snow-plugged hole, which was where the noise was coming from. Neither of them said a word, but Dash stayed hidden, peeking from behind the sofa arm, and Perry stood on the arm with his wings half extended, ready to fend off any intruder despite being scared himself. The snow fell away from the gap, and determined to scare off the intruder, Perry made a defensive screech only falcons could make. Take it easy, Perry. It's just us, Plucky said, emerging through the hole, followed by Scarlet. You guys made it! Dash cheered and ran over and hugged them both. What happened out there? Perry asked. We couldn't make our way back here, so we took shelter in the cave we, stumbled across, Plucky explained. And that was all after Plucky saved my life, Scarlet added, smiling, before all of a sudden she nuzzled Plucky. Thank you for coming back for me. Plucky just smiled at her, and she smiled back, before they were interrupted by a small rumble. What was that? Perry wondered. My stomach, Dash admitted. I thought it was mine, Plucky chuckled. Might as well have been all of us. I'm starved, Perry announced. Well, there won't be anything up here to eat, especially since most of outside is buried in a foot of snow, Scarlet stated as they were still halfway up the mountain. You're right. We'll have to get down the rest of the mountain first, assuming everyone's okay to travel, Plucky ordered. As long as I can fly this time. No offense, Plucky, but your back isn't very comfortable, Perry joked. I'm ready whenever, Dash said energetically. Okay, let's get going then, Plucky asserted cheerily. Plucky led the way out of the warm hut and into the snow as the others followed. Now it was clear they could see the incredible view from the mountain again, though this time much of the landscape had been turned from a lustrous green to a snowy white. Perry took to the sky straight away. The others looked up and couldn't help being slightly envious that he didn't have to lumber through the deep snow like they did, but he had his job of pointing them in the right direction. He did it very well, and they were soon on their way downhill into one of the valleys below, the snow getting slightly shallower the further down they went. Everyone, the good feeling is definitely back, and it's grown. Our quartet is back together, And aside from Scarlet almost dying, nothing really bad almost happened. The group is back together, the quartet is still growing strong, and Team Farthing White is well on their way back to White Deer Park, no matter how far it is. So, tune in next time for the next chapter, and until then, I'm the Master Ranger saying keep moving forward, hold on to your smile no matter what happens, and remember the oath. See you later. One day I'll sing Blizzard right. Don't worry. I've got the English version of Daichi Miura's Blizzard lyrics somewhere in my notes. So, I'll just have to practice then. And the next time I read a story with a Blizzard, I'll sing it correctly. I've been rambling on for long enough. See you later, guys. Bye.